everybody knows that Puna is and can be the breadbasket for the rest of Hawaii Island. And so I've assembled a group of individuals who are all working to build a stronger community, creating a sense of belonging, fostering connection to Aina, and actively working to preserve Puna's beauty and cultural heritage. And they are all doing this through food. I'm going to briefly introduce each of the panelists so that you have a sense of who they are. Then share the vision for Puna's food systems, which was something that was developed with community. And then ask them a series of questions that will highlight the unique work that they do and contribution to community. Now you know what they look like. They're all wearing lei, so if you have questions for them after the panel discussion, just go find them. They don't bite. All right, our first panelist is Iopa Mauna Kea. He was born 1965 in Nanakuli, Hawaiian Homestead. Iopa was raised by his grandmother, Catherine Mauna Kea, whose life was dedicated to community service. As a construction surveyor by profession and a lineal descendant of Kumukahi in Waipio Valley, Iopa is the executive director of Men of Pa'a. Pa'a stands for Positive Action Alliance. He possesses deep knowledge of our community, both economically and culturally. His dedication to Aina-based stewardship and to serving the most vulnerable members of our society has made tangible, positive impacts, which is the forebearer for gaining community trust. Iopa's extensive personal and professional background has uniquely prepared him for his life's mission, which is to serve the Puna community and beyond. Mahalo nui, Anakala Iopa. Our next panelist is Tim Rowan. Tim made the move back to Black Sand Subdivision about 8 years ago, bringing with him a wealth of experience from Homestead, Florida, in Miami-Dade County, where he spent 38 years of his life. He's worn many hats, serving as a certified chef for 3 decades and dedicating 24 years to becoming a certified organic farmer. In 2016, his culinary journey led him to becoming a butcher at the Volcano House restaurant at Hawaii Volcanoes National Park, a position that he held and he transitioned out of during the COVID pandemic. Since then, he has pursued the Black Sands Community Garden, and this is an avenue that combines his passion for gardening and community service. His commitment to service is rooted in his personal journey of recovery, and he's celebrating 29 years of sobriety. Mahalo nui, Tim. Next, we have Mariah Williams. She is a local Puna girl who grew up with an entrepreneurial spirit and a passion for business and food. As a certified insurance industry professional, Mariah specialized in serving high net worth individuals and small businesses, focusing on risk management and comprehensive business insurance solutions to help small business thrive. Because of her roots as a farm girl, Mariah has carved out a unique path as co-owner of Poke Market, Best Poke, on Hawaii Islands, probably the state, where she channels her love for feeding her community into every bowl served. With a blend of business acumen and culinary flair, Mariah embodies the spirit of innovation and community engagement in both her professional and personal pursuits. Mariah Williams. Our next panelist is Gary Rosenberg. He's been practicing regenerative farming techniques since 1992. Before making Hawaii his heart home, he built several urban farms in Berkeley, California, while sustaining himself as an independent handyman and horseshoer. Over the past 20 years, Gary has specialized in rescuing and working with animals, developing a method for intensive animal agriculture. He's currently working to form a collective small farm model in Puna, collaborating with Mountain View Elementary, the Oasis Collective, and residents in Hawaiian Acres and Orchid Land Estates. He envisions a future for Hawaii where food is abundantly produced and shared locally and internationally. His goal is to create a coordinated collective brand focused on producing free-range, humanely raised protein and organic, regeneratively grown produce. Gary Rosenberg. And last but certainly not least is Maitita Lawa'e Kekahuna, who serves as the executive director at O Maku'u Kekahua Community Center and Maku'u Farmers Market in Puna. She is a proud native of Puna and an alumna of Pohoa High Intermediate and deeply rooted to this region. She aspires to honor her kupuna and her ancestors by spearheading the creation of a sustainable ahapua'a in Maku'u and adjacent Puna communities. Lawa'e values time with her ohana and finds joy in dancing hula and making lei, and she dedicates herself to preserving her cultural heritage. She credits her exceptional parents who passed down valuable knowledge and the art of lei making as shaping her current pursuits. Mahalo nui Lawa'e. How amazing are these panelists? They are here to share their mana'o, and they have such a heart for community. So I'm going to share with you the vision that community members came up with for what we want to see for Puna's food system. It reads, and we'll have this online, posted to our social medias and our website at Revitalize Puna, but it says that Puna's food system is sustainable and resilient with a variety of agriculture enterprises found throughout the region by 2030. There is necessary infrastructure for processing and creation of value-added products, ensuring an ample supply of food. The abundance of locally grown and produced foods not only fuels the health and well-being of our community, but it is a vital source of economic development, long-term security, and nourishment in times of crisis. Puna's agricultural activities thrive at all levels, from school and home gardens to commercial ventures. Every resident plays an active role in contributing to and supporting local food systems. How beautiful is that vision, right? And that is something that we are actively working towards. Okay, this is the first question for all panelists. Lawa'e, why don't we start with you? You've heard the vision. Please reflect on it, and please talk about the ways that each of you play a unique role in Puna's food landscape. How does the work that you presently do contribute to this vision of Puna's food system?
Aloha mai kako. Well, the work that we're doing in Maku'u is just to really touch one ohana or one person at a time. And we've, as long as we're impacting one person, that makes all the difference. And I think that's what really built us to contributing to the bigger version of the Puna system, because we're just educating. We have all those schools involved, just educating the keiki, and we're really well-rounded with ohana. So the programs that we create in Maku'u is to help self-sustain from keiki to kupuna, and having everyone involved, because you really need a village to ho'omau, and to help you with your life's work. So that's how I feel my work is contributed to this bigger version. Yeah. Mahalo.
Thanks, Lawa'e. Gary?
Okay. We're working to raise animals and to grow food and to try to exemplify how we can repurpose things that are currently in the waste stream. And I don't think the work we're doing is really that important. What's more important is trying to inspire individuals within Puna to understand the agency that each of us has. And if each of us incrementally tries to grow a little bit more food and to save seeds, share seeds, if you create an abundance, to share that abundance with your neighbors, to really look at all the opportunities there around us and try to understand that for most of human history, people have worked collectively in many different structures to support communities, and it's only very recently that we seem to have forgotten that. So any way that anyone can start having a conversation with neighbors about what you need and what you have to contribute, and how we can find ways at the beginning to learn to trust one another and work one another, I think that's the foundation we need. And we need to be patient with one another. We're living off of 100 years of an economic system which has forced us into a form of slavery. And we have to have empathy for each of us. We're all suffering a little bit from this in ways that we realize and don't realize. But if we can take a very long-term perspective and understand that if we want the world to be better, old men have to plant trees, the fruit of which we will never taste. So if that can be the attitude, I think we can begin to turn things around.
Aloha. As an owner-operator of a local poke market, of course, we are always looking to promote locally grown first. our main product being ahi. And so as we've grown over the last 5 years, the thing that we've seen is not having Poho'iki boat ramp has really detrimentally affected the fish side of things, not just, we talk about Aina, but there's also the other side of that as well. But I think what you said is really important with regards to sharing, because outside of just intending to produce and to promote locally grown and locally produced, I think it's also sharing those networks, sharing information, like you said. If you know someone who knows somebody who could benefit from knowing each other, those are the type of relationships, those handshake relationships that we need to invest in and grow more in. I like to think that I am a contributor to that. So I think that outside of just promoting locally grown and locally produced, I think we also need to promote local relationships and being more conducive, more neighborly, sharing as much as we can. Thank you.
Hello. Hey. All right. Thank you. At our Keiki Garden, our approach is educational. With the ideas, you give a person a fish, you feed him for a day. You teach him to fish, feed him for a lifetime. And thank you, Ashley, for this opportunity. I think the timing is actually perfect. A lot of people are thinking the same thing. They're food insecure right now. And if you've been to the grocery store lately, the food prices are frightening. I can't even believe every time I go there, and everyone's thinking the same thing, but people just need to know how to get started. And I think that's why you have such a good turnout today, because we're all thinking the same thing. I also work with Gloria Franklin over at Nanavali, helping out with the food pantry, and there's people who are suffering. And we're trying to get the food to them. And also what we're noticing is in the last couple of months, people are having their EBT cut or canceled. So I think we play an important role. For instance, one of our workshops, we had all the kids planting trees, and they planted a banana tree, and then 12 months later, those very same kids came back and harvested that fruit, and then we shared it together. And we have several pictures over there on my little setup that you can see. Also, too, one of our favorite things was we did direct seed as well. We did direct seed with cucumbers, and we found out that the kids really love cucumbers. And we watched it from soil preparation to direct seed. We taught them about insects and harvesting, and of course rat lung. And it was really fulfilling. Some of my favorite pictures there over on my setup. Also, too, we have the perfect climate here. We have the perfect climate, and we have fresh water in abundance. We have some things in Puna that no one has in the whole world. And I think we just need to utilize our resources a little better. And thanks for this opportunity.
Aina can get along without us. We cannot get along without Aina. We get everything from Aina, land. I believe it's about a mutual respect with land. That if I take care of land, land will take care of me. Which brings me to the subject of, even outside of our culture, we get plenty of people just dumping rubbish along the roads. Government, we gotta clean that up. We do not want that to happen in our backyard over here, because Waina and Nanakuli get choked rubbish alongside the road. And it was sad for me to see that. I was hurting in my heart to see that. Culturally, it's our responsibility. This is a responsibility. This life that we live, about living our culture, is about commitment. It's also about discipline. It's a discipline. But also, we need to hold each other accountable and be responsible for that. Here's something, a conversation my sister Kukui and I talked about. She said, what we know now, or what we're trying to learn, or what we're trying to preserve, our kupunas already knew already. They already knew that already. So who is us for change the way they did things. Let's just follow the path, see where it goes. If it works, no fix them. Because our problem is we like try fix everything and nothing sometimes need to be fixed. Plants go and grow. Weeds go and grow. People go and grow. Culture go and grow. Culture go and evolve. And culture is evolving right now as we speak. Every time something come up, ooh, we're gonna stand, we're like kuiluna for this, right? We like make sure that it's right for us, the people. We want to make sure that we hold government officials accountable. When you talk about culture, culture don't just stay with our Hawaiian culture and being Hawaiian or being Filipino or being Portuguese. It's one holistic process. This thing touches everybody at any kind of time, anywhere, any place. This is good fun actually, thank you.
Mahalo, Uncle. I don't know if I can beat that, but yeah, kako'o. Yeah, kako'o. Eola oi, eola mako me is kind of the term that we use when we malama aina, and in turn, the aina will malama us back in abundance of ya'ai. And how are we weaving the culture into what we were doing? And I don't think we're leaving it at all. We're just continuing on what we were taught generationally. And when we get together and hui in any kind of workshop or programs that we're doing in Maku'u, we're just making sure that the kupuna is passing on that ike and that knowledge to the generations below us. I'm consistently learning every single day of kupuna talks. So just having that safe space and opportunity for anyone from Keiki to Kupuna to take on to any ike that is being taught at the time, and to Holomua. One was when we took a huaka'i down to Kahuwai, we're on the Kalakione, and we have a lot of impromptu knowledge. And my really good friend Chas Hualani Haunio, we were harvesting hau, and then she just kind of hopped in and she was teaching her how to strip the bark from the hau. And we had one ohana that took really well to that, because that fit kaula cordage for making a that was, really well practiced. And till today, much halau practice that method. But to just see the keiki grasp onto that and then prepare their, getting involved and just collecting and gathering to prepare them for their next phase on that. So, yeah, just to hold on more with the culture and to learn from people. Mahalo.
I think every single one of our panelists, and I completely agree, in the importance of investing in our OPO, right? Our Kiki hold the key to the future. And so the next question is going to be centered around youth engagement and education. Question for Tim and Gary. Engaging youth is crucial for our future. How do your initiatives actively involve and educate young people about food systems? And what impact do you hope this will have in the long run?
All right. Hello. Thanks again. All right. Okay. Thank you. Our Keiki events usually consist of three different workshops. There'll be a planting or harvesting, a science station, or a chemistry demonstration. Maybe we'll talk about butterfly metamorphosis, or something chemistry related. Jessica will do some different chemistry experiments that the kids have never seen before. And then we have usually a craft section, which we think is really important for the kids. Art is a big part of our program. So we'll bring modeling clay, they'll make beads, necklaces, lace sometimes. One of our favorite workshops is we give the kids a spray bottle of soapy water, which is actually really good in the garden and safe for the kids. They can wash their hands while they're doing it. So you go around the garden and you spray soapy water, and it kills the insects like aphids, whiteflies, and scale. And the kids love the spray bottles. In the long run, we're hoping that we taught useful skills for life, respect for the land, respect for others, boosted their self-esteem and self-confidence. Thank you.
When you say kids, that's a big subject. So the question is, what age are we working with? Right now, I'm working with an amazing group of young people who have gathered themselves into something that we're calling the Oasis Collective. And they have initiated on their own volition a program with Mountain View Elementary School that I'm trying to assist them with. So we're dealing with young people in their 20s, and I'm looking at them as future leaders in our movement. We're trying to focus our efforts. How do we leverage information and technology? So we're in a bit of a bind now. We've got to take these young people who want to do the work, who don't have the money or the skills, but they know the work needs to be done. Which is where I think the District of Puna is really in an opportune place, because we're living in an area where we probably have more people with a more complete, diverse, practical skill set than anywhere else concentrated. So then the question becomes, how do we find a way of creating connections in a way that works both for the young people and for all of the Puna here in Puna who have the skills? I think most of us who have tried to bring young people onto our land have experienced similar frustrations with the lack of work ethic. I don't think any of us want to be employers or managers or organizers. And this is where I think the opportunity lies if we can start thinking collectively and start understanding that we have an asset that these young people want. They want to be able to grow food for themselves. They want to be able to put in their own solar systems. They want to be able to homestead and live off the grid. And there's a huge number of us in this room who are doing that and have really earned that right through trial and error and through lifetimes of doing this. And many of us here have purchased jungle land and have worked through sweat equity to make that something valuable. And I just hope everybody realizes that where we are now in the process of time with the evolution of our civilization and our financial system, we are the people who have skills and a form of capital which is now becoming more and more valuable. And these young people don't want to be exploited, but they want to be able to have what we have. If we think collectively and we create an opportunity for these young people to be educated in the skills that we all have, and use that educational institution that we're going to have to create, or several, to help organize the kids so it's not headbutting one stubborn 19-year-old kid who thinks he knows everything versus me, because I'm not doing that anymore. And I don't think any of us want to do that. And we're not skilled at doing that. I know I certainly am not. But if we can find a way to house these kids, give them community, give them a way of becoming students and teachers at the same time, where they use their internet presence to teach the skills that we can impart to them globally, and then give them housing, and then move them from small farm to small farm on a project basis as a team, and make them understand the responsibilities they have to themselves and to the future. Now we have a potential of a working model that we can create the bridges between what we have with our gray hair and what they have, hopefully, with their energy that I know I don't have anymore.
And Gary, that's what you are working to build, this collective farm, Hui in Puna, doing just that. Fantastic, thank you. You know, more than 85% of our food is imported, And so it's really incumbent upon us to change that. Supporting local is vital, but it really does come with its set of challenges such as seasonality and availability of ingredients. And so this question is for Mariah about local sourcing. What are some of the difficulties that you've encountered in procuring local ingredients for your business? How have you overcome them? And what opportunities does this present for local growers to fill in the gap?
Thank you. I think that for most local businesses who are producing food, it's the same issue for most of us, which is there's an abundant amount of things that are being grown locally, but getting them to those restaurateurs is the difficult part. I think that when you're in areas like Puna, Pipikeo, where you're surrounded by farmers, it's a little bit easier because people don't want to go all the way to Hilo to sell your product, or nor do they have a lot of time as a farmer to have the luxury to go and sell their product. Many people are operating on just a husband, wife, family people, maybe one or two people are running that farm, so I get that. But right now what we're seeing is the person who makes the most money from ag is the middle guy. It's not the food restaurateur, it's not the farmers. And so there needs to be some type of co-op or collective where restaurateurs can also go and secure locally grown produce. And right now that's really difficult. And we were just told by the person who we get our local goods from that prices are about to go up again. And that makes it very difficult for us to produce a product for our community and our customers that is cost effective. So everybody has to bear the cost of that. But I think the answer is flooding the market. We need more growers to produce more things so that there is more abundance. Seasonality is less of a concern for someone like me because it's about educating the customers to know to eat with the seasons and to eat what get. And I think there's a lot of creativity that can come from that. I think more the issue is getting those produce from the individual, small farmers to a location where it can be distributed to who needs it. And I think we see a lot of good examples in other communities where that has, they've done that and everyone has thrived from it. What I think we see a little bit more on this side is a less access to that, and we need to have, again, what we were talking about earlier, people willing to share information, share their mana'o, share even in transportation. We always say, like, during the pandemic, we were using Suisan vehicles to transport veggies and produce all around the Big Island. And they did that at no, they didn't charge us to do that. And that was a great thing. If we could see more people doing something like that, that would benefit the entire community. And as we always say, rising tides lifts all boats. So I think that the more that we can hold each other's hands and lift each other up instead of thinking that we're competing with each other, I think people will find that the abundance mentality is there's more than enough for all of us to feed each other. We just need to be sharing more of it.
Hello? Okay. Mariah, you got me thinking about utilizing the resources we have, and so developing some kind of directory that identifies the different growers in Puna, what they are growing, what quantity. That way, restaurateurs in every single community on Hawaii Island know what's available. But what you honed in on was getting that product to the restaurants. And so I saw Mass Transit Administrator Victor Candle here, and our buses are not full. So I wonder if this might be a pilot project, some kind of demonstration, where we can utilize mass transit because it's already on the road, right? The bus routes are already going. But transporting some of those local ingredients to different markets, co-ops, restaurants, so that's worth exploring. Right, use what get. I want to shift to a question around how Aina can be restorative and healing. I don't know about you guys, but I just feel like being in Aina is like medicine. And so this question is for Anakala Iompa. In your work, you've used working in Aina as healing and restorative practice. Can you speak to the impact this has had on individuals and Ohana, and highlight the transformative power of connecting with Aina in this way?
Hey, thank you, Ashley. I think this conversation is awesome. I like to point out one thing before I move in that, and the thing that I like to point out is that why is other vegetables and produce coming to us over here when we should be having our own, right? So that's $1 million question. Why is all of the farmers markets get other vegetables that not coming from here? I'd say half of them is not from here. And I don't even have to go over there and go look. Just know that. So that's $1 million question. If you look at, there's several men, about 15 of them walking around here. They get all tattoos. They came from the bushes. They came from the prisons. They came from the domestic abuse. They're coming from these places. But now they're in the community serving our community at any cost, for any reason, because they feel that that's the most worthiest thing that they can do for their community. What it is really, it's about recovery for a man. It's about restoration for all of his antics that he did. And then it's about reconciliation. It's about making amends to himself first, then making amends to his family, and then the community benefiting from that. When you talk about the power of Aina and the mana of our culture, we cannot question that. Our kupunas already knew this. They know all the answers before we even go try. So, our kuleana is, we gotta go try. We gotta go do them. We not can talk this. Talk is toxic. We gotta do this. We cannot just say it. We must live this. We cannot just tell somebody else to go do them. Get up off your calling and go do them. That's the kind of attitude and concept that we gotta have. We cannot be counting on anybody to bring vegetables and produce to in our own place. We gotta go grow them. Oh, we must do this too. Must have one connection too. Gotta have the Aina connection. Gotta have the cultural connection. And that thing not gonna come just because we entitled to it. There's gonna be some work that gotta be done, and there's gonna be some roadblocks, and there's gonna be some failures. We'll get some hiccups along the way. But if we see something that's working, then let's try to empower it and not shove it down. So I'd say resource is this. We got a lot of people who's on this path already of bringing culture into farming and vice versa. We have people that when walk through all of the problems that we're going through now. All I can say is, government, Ashley, and everybody who's interested, you call up my sister Kukui. She'll come down here and she'll talk about her journey, and you're going to be inspired by what they're doing. Yes, it's in Waianae. Yes, it's in the toughest neighborhood. Yes, it's in the dirtiest neighborhood, the biggest poverty place that you could ever see. But they're making one difference. And what I don't want to see is, I don't want to see Puna look like Waianae right now as far as the garbage, the homeless, and the people. They get just too much people on the streets over there, not enough people farming. My sister guys only can do as much as they can with that, and as much as they can do. We need to do our kuleana, we need to do our responsibility here. So that's why I think I'm engaging this conversation and wanting to see now moving this more forward. So thank you.
Thank you, Uncle. Sounds like your sister is like lotus coming out of like muddy water, right? And so we would absolutely welcome the opportunity to visit her and bring her here to learn from her. And I think something that you said that really resonates is like, let's talk more action, and like not waiting for somebody else to do it, but having that sense of agency in yourself to do it and be that model for others. So thank you. Next question is for Lawae, and I wanted to talk about how Aina is a catalyst for Ohana connection. Beyond the individual benefits, how does working in Aina foster stronger connections within Ohana? And can you reflect on instances where you've witnessed families coming together and building bonds through shared experiences with the land?
Mahalo. In working in Aina, we found the connection, obviously, from Kanaka to Aina, and just learning about Haloa and the existence of Kanaka and how we came about, and the kuleana that we have to malama Haloa until, and Haloa will grow and malama us back. So that's the kind of ike we carry on in our mala, and a lot of the programs we run one specific program, and it's Papakalai Aina, and to be in this program we have to farm kalo, and every time we meet with the ohana, there's always strong connections. Even when you go to a party, there's always reconnections between your cousins, and rekindling things, catching up, and then finding out everybody's in different career pathways, and eventually you leave with better connections and resources with each other, and then you'll continue to grow yourself as an individual and or an organization. So creating that safe space and program for Ohanas to come together, that's where you'll see it all. And in our programs, we've heard Puna share about, we go out and gather rocks to create our pohaku. Our pohaku is poi pounding rocks and tools that we use to make poi. And stories were shared there about going to gather a rock and then taking it home and it not being the best vibe in the house, meaning what do you call it, experiencing things that will tell you that's not the specific rock, and when that happens you take it back. So all of those little ike is what we'd like to learn to help prevent, like Amma Kalayoko said, we're not recreating, but we're just holomoa and carrying on the stories of our kupuna and making sure that we best respect that going forward, and to make sure that the next generation can carry on that same generational ike to help them in their future. So, yeah, mahalo.
So this program that it's Nick, right, Francisco, and Uncle Howard Koradui,
Yes, highly inspired by the Konanui Ohana.
Okay, yeah. So they're working with how many ohana at a time?
Well, our first year was 3 years ago. We had 10 ohana. That was mainly the local farmers' beneficiaries. The second year we grew to 20 ohana, and 15 out of that kukad out, which graduated out of the class. And every year, as we finish the year, those ohana turn into leaders for the next, or we call them alakai, for the next year. So all the other cohorts coming in, the ohana, that these families will be the ones to support them through their journey. And this program is a year long, really intensive, but a lot of learning components in it. Every time we gather, there's always ohana sharing, and we like to use this olelo no eos ole pau ka ike ikahalo ho okari, is knowledge is not always learned in one area. You can always travel throughout the island and learn the same things, just in different ways. So we like to keep that open in our model, because there's really no one way to do things, but
Best way for you. And how many ohana are being brought through the program this year?
So this year we have 26 ohana.
26 ohana.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah, so it's growing capacity, seeing all of these ohana and their different career pathways. They are always dumping into like donating more trees for the next cohort. Papas, there's a lot of ohana with tools that they'll like to donate. So there's just a lot of good support now coming in. like Uncle said, build the people first and then the food next.
Thank you. The next question is related to Aina and food security for Gary. And you kind of touched on it a little bit of this earlier. But how does your farm collective contribute to ensuring a steady and secure supply of food for our community? And like talk about some of the challenges that you're having to solve for to really get to this place of like food security. And then you could also speak to the role that farms like yours play in achieving long-term sustainability, especially with that like workforce development piece. And how do we do more of this? How do we duplicate and magnify your efforts?
If we're going to be forming collectives and if we're going to be moving to local economies, we're going to have to create a sense of abundance and bring abundance into our community, because a political system and a social system can't form abundance. If we can create abundance, we will be able to create a more egalitarian future. I am simultaneously working at both ends of the spectrum, and I think we need to have a bottom-up approach and a top-down approach. And what we're trying to exemplify on my farm, what I'm trying to show, is that if we have people who have the means to create incubators or schools specifically to grow trees and to raise animals and to create the intellectual capital and the human capital that can help create abundance in our communities, it will be that much easier to create small farm collectives. So my hope is to work with the council and with the administration. I think we here in Hawaii are in a unique position. We have a fair number of very, very wealthy people who have more money than they know what to do with. And what do they want more than anything else? They want to be connected to the island. They want to be connected to the community. So one of the things that we're doing, that I'm doing, that I think is fairly unique, is trying to suggest to these wealthy people that the best investment that they can make right now is, instead of trying to build a bunker at the bottom of a missile silo, to protect themselves by building a private commonwealth for the creation of all of the tools that the rest of us are going to need to create local food systems and to create local young people, local leaders, to create abundance in our communities. And what's been demonstrated, and I think we have all experienced this to some extent, is if you want to build something, the best thing to do is to concentrate your energy. So if we can create, and my vision is to create 11 centers on the island of Hawaii, each of which is privately funded by a different billionaire. We've got plenty of those on this island. Each one in a different apawa'a, each one in a different microclimate, and to create a open source curriculum that can be shared first amongst those 11 educational centers, but then to be shared with the rest of the country and the rest of the world. And what I've demonstrated on my farm is, if you're working regeneratively and you're really trying to work with nature and not in opposition to nature, and I don't kill anything. There are no pesticides, insecticides, fertilizers, nothing. No conventional, no organic. I don't kill anything. And what eventually happens is you get too much of everything. And I think the thing about regenerative farming is it's limited only in two ways: by the amount of time you have to manage the systems and by the land. So if we create these centers, I believe that we will create enough natural capital that it will naturally overflow into other places. And these wealthy people, out of a sense of self-interest, not out of a sense of philanthropy, will realize that they are safest by giving each and every one of us the ability to feed ourselves as much as possible. This is nothing new. It's only in our recent iteration of capitalism that people forgot that. It used to be, up until recently, that on Sunday morning, the front pew in the church was left open. And when the rich man walked in the back of the door of the church and he sat in the front pew, everybody smiled because everybody knew he built the church. And I think that's what we've forgotten, is we're at war with money, we're at war with ourselves, we're at war with wealthy people. There's an opportunity right now to use regenerative agriculture and creating collectives and the need to address climate change as a way to fix our social and our financial systems, and to give wealthy people an opportunity not to be the enemies, but to be heroes in this story. The concentration of money in private hands, if government will work with us and take the roadblocks out of the way, we don't need to tax these people. We need to use their skills and their resources and their networks to efficiently and effectively recapitalize local communities so that collectives can have a foundation from which to build.
I so kakao that my mindset is community-driven, government-supported. Anything that we can do that.
You see how the men will just spring into action, gang. That's the kind of action I'm talking about. No need to say anything, they just spring into action.
Thanks, you guys. That was a little close. Gary, the other thing that you said that really resonated was getting out of this deficit mindset. Like, too often we are focused on what we don't have, and we don't embrace this abundance mindset and like focus on what we do have, which is an abundance of natural resources and people with the willingness to like get involved in AINA initiatives. So thank you for sharing that. And the other thing that I wanted to say was when you talk about like amplifying your efforts through these centers, definitely link up with Vibrant Hawaii. They have an island-wide network of resilience hubs. Iopua, Laua'i, they are part of that collective. But this is a way to amplify your efforts and then also get connected to resources, so thank you. Next question is from Mariah regarding resourcefulness and security. Growing up here in the islands, you know, our parents in our kupuna, they grew a lot of what we consumed. I remember my grandma, she came from the Philippines. I think the last year of education was like 6th grade, but grandma knew how to grow anything everywhere. And so I really appreciated that. And then I knew that when we were cooking at home, if the recipe called for something we didn't have, you mentioned this earlier, you use what get. And so as a mom, as a wife, as a business owner, as someone that is committed to supporting local, how can we integrate the practice of growing our own into our daily routines? And how can we exercise resourcefulness when preparing our meals, drawing from our island roots and our diverse cultures?
I think that's a great question. I think if we look at something like the historical value of something like pork and peas, peas not from Philippines, but somehow it made it into the food. So I think if you look at that, you can understand that the Spanish had a dish that came with olives, pork, and pimentos, and tomato sauce. And so when you came to the Philippines, no more olives. So what do? You make it with something else, and then it became a cultural dish that kind of moved on from there. I think that we have a unique opportunity to do the same thing here. Oftentimes, in my household, growing up, never have food, only had ingredients. You know what I mean? So you had to figure out how to put those ingredients together and make something. So oftentimes, if a recipe called for shortening, I don't know what shortening is. What is that? You know, figure out what the other useful you could use in a place for that. I think that what we need to fix more to is, I think the unfortunate thing is that there was some time in our generation growing up, there was a shame put on eating local style foods, you know, whether or not it's sweet potato leaves from the backyard, or ulu, or eating taro. There was this shame associated with it, as if you know could afford real food. And I think that we need to move out of that. And the only way is, again, engaging the keiki, right? They need to grow the food, cook the food, in order to want to eat the food. Because otherwise, they're going to want to eat what they see on TV and what they see in the fast food restaurants. And until we start putting it in things like their cafeteria food, growing it more at home, taking the potato maybe out of your beef stew and putting ulu in instead, until we start doing more of those type of practices, we're not going to see a big change in the way the food systems and the way that we're eating, because we're not incorporating the children into that mindset change. they need to see that it is a more value add for them to eat locally, to eat the food that they grew out of their backyard, and to see that as being wealthy. And until we can change that mindset, I think we're in an upward climb, and it's hard for just one family to do it. We need a collective, and so I think it's so powerful to have these type of conversations and to have these type of networks, because we are these silos, but together we can do so much more than what we're doing alone. So I think that, also sharing those simple things, maybe it's using TikTok, maybe it's getting the kids involved to do these TikTok recipes of how do you forage out of your own backyard, because there's a lot of things that we can't eat. They don't even know that they're edible. So outside of the things like rat lung disease and things like that, we also have to make them, understand the importance of washing our food and taking care of our homegrown things as well. But I think the most important thing is getting them excited to forage in their backyards. So I think things like Na'al Restaurants is a pop-up who's definitely trying to elevate the way that people see foraged foods is your first step, and then bringing that as an education piece to more young keiki, not high school students, but keiki, toddler keiki. Get them interested in, and then we have something to build from.
So during the pandemic, Mariah and I, we co-led a project called Feed the People Puna, and that's where we basically saved local beef and produce that was meant to go to restaurants and schools, and so there was this excess because of shutdown. So for like half a year, every week, we pulled together 1,000 bags worth of ingredients that had ingredients for 2 meals, and recipe cards that really highlighted the diversity of cultures we have here in the islands. But I remember us getting messages from families and kids who were so excited every Friday to pick up their bags so they could see what recipes in store for us and how we might integrate, right, this practice of cooking together as a family, into daily routine. So mahalo nui for your leadership in that. Next question is for Tim regarding building bridges and connections. And so how does your keiki garden in the Black Sand subdivision help to build bridges between generations? I think a lot of us talked about intergenerational relationships between keiki and kupuna. And so how does your project foster these sorts of connections? And have you noticed an increase in relationship building and a sense of community as a result of their shared experiences together? And then what would you say, how has this contributed to a child's self-confidence, self-worth, and resilience?
All right. Well, I think this spring I'm going to write a grant proposal called Keiki Garden Grows a Community, because I think by the end of the day our attendance here from Black Sands will demonstrate that it's really done well community building, and we have a successful partnership with our county and our whole community. It also gives people a place to meet. We put out the signs out, and people can just come by and talk story. And out of this has come a grassroots organization that we've been going around picking up trash on Upper Puna Road. And if you're familiar, anyone's familiar with that intersection of Highway 130 and Upper Puna Road, there's always trash there. And so we're starting to get together and get that cleaned up. And I have actually a proposal I want to talk about later. But yeah, it's getting people together. Also too, we merged with our successful Malama Keiki program. It's been a 15-year successful Keiki program in Black Sands, co-created by Terry Kowalski. And it's basically anywhere from 25 to 30 keiki get together with Puna. And so you have people like Connie, Sherry, Gilbert, and Gilbert will come by. We kind of break it down. Maybe the garden is on Wednesday. Uncle Gilbert comes by and teaches ukulele on Thursday. Arenzo teaches art on Tuesday. And so they learn skills, and they're also gain self-confidence. I think at the ukulele thing, I think they even gave them ukuleles. If they promised to practice, they gave them brand new ukuleles. And then I think that you could see them in the parade that we did. We're always in the parade, but they learned. They gain self-confidence from the positive feedback from the Kapuna, and we all benefit from this. And also, art plays a big role in our different workshops, because I think it gives the kids to demonstrate their creativity, and there's a free flow of information. The back and forth is where a lot of our ideas come, because there's no wrong in art. You know, it's just back and forth, and we come up with some really genius ideas, if I do say so myself. Let's see, where are we here? Yeah, all of us in the community volunteer. No one's paid, and people love to volunteer and get involved. So, thank you again.
Tim, thank you. All right, final question for our panelists. There's so much power in the collective start. I thought this thing was going down again. If each of you could share some closing words of encouragement. And by the way, I'm all in. Like, I'm so impressed with what each and every one of you and your communities are doing, and so happy to, kick in some contingency grants and connect you to other grants opportunity. We've got the director of ag here, and I'm sure she's been listening very keenly to all the amazing work that you are leading and sees Puna as a worthwhile investment. So thank you for being here to share your manao and your leadership. What is the call to action message for our audience? Not just the audience here, but this is being recorded, so people that are going to watch this, what do you want them to do? What are you going to encourage them to do? How do we ensure that this dialogue continues? Today, I think, is a start of many great conversations, but also an opportunity to start building connections and working together and supporting each other. And so how are we going to make sure that what we say here continues and leads to tangible actions and positive changes within our community, so that we have a stronger community but also a stronger food system? Loa A, do you want to start us off?
That's a really good question. But I would just, I'll just encourage everyone to do your best in what you do, and even if it's not with farming, I'm pretty sure everyone has a specific hana that you are good at that would be able to contribute to the majority of the community. And if you have that certain, like, even if you have technical skills, we are also looking for tech people. So we're just open to anybody and every hana that you have. We're just open to that, and just networking, and not being afraid to talk to one another, and that's how we'll find the relationship. So aloha aku, aloha mai, pua aku, kokua mai, and that's just my takeaway for the day. So mahalo.
Thank you. And one more just follow up. When you say tech skills, you mean, is it like website development, branding,
Yes.
marketing? Like,
Yeah.
It's one thing to grow and create a product, but it's a whole nother thing to begin to market it and kind of share it with the world. So is that what you're looking
Correct.
for? Those kinds of
Yes.
skills?
Yeah. I know there's a lot out there that's good in marketing and tech skills, so we're looking.
Okay, if you're marketing and tech savvy, Loa'i needs you. Thank you, Loa'i. Gary.
I think we can all understand that we're all living in a society, and we're living under a story, and that story is not working for most of us. But if you can understand that it's just a story, we have the capacity to write a new story and to introduce a new story, not only for ourselves, but for the rest of the world. And we have a brand here in Hawaii that's invaluable. And everybody in the rest of the world, when they go to bed and they are questioning their own lives, there's a lot of people out there who, even though they've never been here or don't know what it's like, dream of being in Hawaii. So I think that really puts a huge responsibility on us. I think we're in a unique position to introduce a story now, a new story for humanity, to evolve from consuming resources to stewardship and to really rebuilding the planet. And we're working with a group of people here in Hawaii and with some people in Europe to introduce a new concept, a new way of looking at money. And we've printed up some envelopes, and we're creating something we're calling the first International Commonwealth Bank of Natural Capital. And we're giving people envelopes and asking people, if you're growing something, understand the value of seeds. Save your seeds and give your seeds to somebody else, because it's a form of capital which, if you hoard it, is worth less and less and less. And if you have seeds and you share seeds, you're sending a message out that if you have something in abundance, the best way to grow that is to share it. And it gives people an opportunity not to necessarily repay you, but to introduce a pay-it-forward model, which I think we all need right now. So if there's one action item I'd ask you to think about, is if you're growing anything and you've got little cakey trees beneath your tangerine tree or beneath your avocado tree, rather than not understanding the worth of those and thinking, I've already got enough avocados, to take the time to dig those up and to put them in a yogurt container, or to save those seeds. And when you go out and you're meeting with your ohana or your neighbors, really bring genetic material around, share it. I can't sell the eggs that I raise for enough money to pay my expenses. That's how much it costs me to raise eggs the way I do. But if I leave the house and I have an extra dozen eggs and I give them to my mechanic, next time he works on my car, all of a sudden the bill is less. And honey is a currency. And asking your neighbors if you can pick up something for the store, for them at the store, is a currency. And if you have a Tupperware container and you make too much stew and you give it to your auntie, that's a currency. And this is the way communities have functioned for thousands of years, and somehow we've forgotten it. We here in Puna, the way our subdivisions are laid out, the skills that we have, the mindset that brought us here, the tradition of Hawaii of having an apua'a culture, the fact that this island used to support 600,000 people and we were 100% food self-sufficient, we have everything we need. We're the luckiest, richest people in the world with everything that's going on. And that entails not only an opportunity, but a responsibility. And I would ask each of us to understand that if everything blows up everywhere else, we're not going to be immune. But I think if we think about it, we are in a unique position to affect the history of humanity going forward from here on out. And let's get beyond our comfort zones. Let's assume individual leadership. Let's try to understand we each have agency. Let's each be the ancestors that we want people in the future to thank. And let's get to work. Now's the time. Nobody's coming to the rescue.
Thank you. Where can folks pick up those envelopes? What table? Where are you at?
I only brought a few with me, but if anybody wants to give me either a mailing address or an email address and give it to me before you leave, I'm happy to get them to you. But it's not just a matter of this. It's any little Tupperware container that you can give to somebody full of seeds and not expect to get it back. It's any envelope you get in the mail that you can save rather than throwing in the rubbish. It's the foil container that your coffee came in. Anything that goes to the landfill is a failure. Anything we can repurpose and we can teach kids how to repurpose it is a success.
Great, thank you. And we'll also start a little collection of that at our Pahoa Council office so folks can access it. You know, the best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago. The second best time is right now, so let's get going. Thanks, Gary. Mariah.
I think the call to action that most important to me is adoption and education. I would love it if people who are growing active farms would adopt a restaurant and say, what do you need me to grow for you? Because those are always going to be changing, but then you're going to have a much stronger relationship and a place to put your produce. And education, I think that one of the things that is a sad thing for me to see in our education system is that we are always encouraging our kids to go to college in the mainland. And there's something to be said about like, everybody said, hey, you don't want your kids to go into agriculture, it's too hard, get them to go to college and do something smart. But then you brought up a great point about technology is needed in this as well. So why can't we promote technology within a farm? Why can't we promote all the things that they could do someplace else within the farm field here? Marketing and sales, technology, industry, mechanics, all those things have a need in farm. So I think the call to action for me would be adoption and education. And the other thing to that is I would love if there would be a legal definition to the word farmer's market to compel the people who are selling the produce at the farmer's market that it has to meet the criterion that it is grown locally by a local farmer. And if not, that it is particularly labeled to ensure that the people know what they're buying, not assuming that it's local. So that would be my call to action.
All right. This dialogue will continue. I feel we're just getting started, and taking care of the land and taking care of the people is a way of life. The pursuit of material goods leaves you wanting and unfulfilled. Working with others and community service brings true happiness. And I'm not going to retire to Florida anytime soon, so I'll be here. My call to action would be take action. It empowers people, and it feels like you have some control over your future. The fear of the unknown is crippling and debilitating. Just start. Start with beginner crops, beans, lettuce, radishes. Start an herb garden. If there's an unhealthy fruit tree at your house or your neighbor's house, spray it with soapy water. Maybe it just needs some love. And my call to action would be, this is my first garden. I'm 32 years old and I'm a line cook. And so I go to my mom, hey Mom, can I put a garden in your backyard? This is an 8 by 16 garden. Nothing, but that's where I started. And you can see this is, I believe, 34 years ago. Also too, if I can do it, anyone can. I think maybe you've noticed that I have a limp. People notice my right knee doesn't bend. My right leg is 4 inches shorter, and I have to wear a corrective shoe. And I came up just because I kept trying. I started, I kept trying, and I persisted. And so can you.
Maybe some kind of government initiative that kind of have a farming effect at home, where like every home, every yard should have some type of food growing operation kind of thing. So there was a initiative back then when some Kanaka folks was trying to put one papakui'ai in every household, and I believe that's what Lawaiga is doing. So maybe we gotta try to do that too, but have some kind of initiative from government stating that maybe houses should have gardens inside of their on their land, even if it's 1 acre, even if it's just a small garden thing. Maybe can have groups that go around and actually help put that into the kupuna's land that the kupuna cannot grow. We go over and help Auntie Emily every so and so, and something like that kind of thing. More of that maybe. Some kind of initiative too in limiting some of the outsourcing of other foods coming into our place. I think I'm talking about what you were sharing, I think earlier. Something like that. That should be. And then most importantly, maybe some kind of like, and Garrett, I'm doing this, but maybe going into the schools and working with the kids in the schools, and then hopefully bringing them out into the gardens and the outside classrooms. Because the kids, they stay bored inside the school, guaranteed, they're bored, you know. But when you talk about keiki to kupuna, you know, the kupuna can share their ike on life's terms. And then the keiki can share with the kupunas how to work their phones, because the kupunas don't know how to work their phones, right? So it's just common sense, like common sense kind of stuff. Words of empowerment. I think change is everything. Change is inevitable. Change can happen whether we like it or not. But the key for us as people, I think, is to embrace change, because change is here. Other words of encouragement or empowerment would be stop doing things the same way over and over again and expecting different results, right? But do this rather. Maybe do something different and expect one different result. Eh? Nobody thought about that one. How you figure that one? Came from a Kanaka. How's that one? And then lastly, as my kupuna would share with me, and what I live, I think this is a way of life, and you know, our staff up here was like sharing about living their mission and vision. So I think it's about living, finding intent and purpose, and then living it. So my grandmother, Kupuna Catherine Kamalukukui Mauna Kia, this is her Olela Noeao. She said something like this. She says, oh my goodness, and just sleep a little bit. I must be getting old. See, when you say something about 1965, no can. What she said? Yeah, she said this. She says, Nehuli kalima iluna pololi kaopu. When your hands are facing up, empty your stomach. You lazy, you're not doing the work. Nehuli kalima ilalo piha kaopu. When your hands facing down in the honua, in the earth, that means you're doing the work, and now you have a full stomach. So thank you for allowing me to be here today.
Give it up for our panel. How awesome. Anakal, I loved when you talked about getting into the schools, because yes, we want our kids to be book smart, but we also want them to be Aina smart and learning how to work with the land, live with the land. That is so incredible. And this idea of having government initiatives to give people resources to grow their own, that's what we're doing here today. More than 700 plants for Ohana to take home and start growing. And I love the idea of neighborhoods working together, each hold growing something different so that there is this abundance that can be shared across neighborhoods. Thank you all for joining us for this incredible discussion with some of Puna's finest. Mahalo nui for sharing your heart, for sharing your soul, for sharing your mana'o, for like clearing all the obstacles and getting to this place where we can all be inspired to become a little bit more food secure in our household. So thank you so much for your leadership. Take care.